So it can be very easy to get a piece of software like Wirecast and Blab and connect it together and then sit there and go, okay, what do I do with it? Like, literally, how do I make this into a show? So I want to give you 3 examples of how I think Wirecast and Blab can be used together. The first one is conferences. Conferences, normally the live stream is very bland. You have a one-shot stream. You have one guy or a couple of people sitting on that laptop with the live stream running. You tend to have it so that there's no audio and there's music playing, and then there's a shot of the person speaking. The audio is sometimes brilliant, sometimes really bad. The shot can be really long. You can only see the person as a tiny little dot. And there's not a lot of interactivity for the viewer in terms of the person watching at the other end. This is the reason why I think a lot of people still travel to conferences, even fly overseas just to go to a conference. Of course, you want to see your friends and things like that and to network and do business, but I think the experience of live streaming is pretty poor on the majority and is almost like a secondary thing. You could use Blab for conferences to really add a level of dynamic interaction with it, especially with Wirecast, because Wirecast has a feature to allow using iPhones, iPads, additional iOS devices inside of Wirecast just by downloading a free app. So I imagine that you could have a live stream camera just on one login account. So you set up one Twitter account for one box. That's your live stream with a cameraman doing the zooming in and out. You have another one which is a roaming iPhone to people within the crowd. So wherever the microphone gets taken to, you can take the shot to that. You could probably keep the audio from the original live stream, but if you also have problems with that, you can switch to the camera. And then have a third one as a sort of roaming one in the hallways and getting feedback and testimonials from people. And the best thing about it is that you can listen in on these separate channels without making them live, which is really, really cool. So I've not seen anybody do that yet, but I can definitely see that where it could go to for Blab. It could be perfect for something like South by Southwest if you had a team of 4 people. Another thing where it might be useful, I would like to use it for my project coming up called Apiary House. I envisage having 3 Twitter accounts. One which is a wide shot, so you see a constant shot of the space that I'm working in. The second shot is a camera on the laser cutter itself, so you actually see what I've designed being cut out. And obviously the third one behind me as I'm designing in vector the file to be cut out. So why is that interesting? I think in the same way that people do live streams on Periscope and people jump in to see where people are at in that moment, in that time, and sort of interact in real time. Running a small business, especially if you're on your own, can be really quite lonely, and you're sort of relying on the interactions from emails and sales to actually be part of your social media every day, posting things on Vine and Instagram and having that dialogue with your remote potential audience. I think with live streaming, it adds a whole new dimension to what I call transmedia storytelling. So imagine if you have a Blab with 4 windows, but 3 of those windows are shots of your working space. People can see the big whole shot of the space. They can see the laser cutter working. They can see you working on a project. It adds an extra level of authenticity, I think, to your practice. So if somebody wants to order something from you, they can see it going through the process of being designed. They can see the material being loaded into the laser. They can see the laser cutting it out. And I know as a remote viewer how exciting that is to actually watch your order go from this digital payment to physical, and then see it all get packaged up and sent out via the courier. I think that adds a whole new dimension to retail, especially when it's done online and digital. The last one I want to mention, and this is happening quite a lot on Blab already, and I think a lot of the sort of early adopters who have already got video shows on YouTube have sort of ran to this straight away, is one-on-one chats with authority figures. So they tend to have a Blab running or schedule a Blab like a week ahead of time, and then they go in there with a channel and have questions for one person. They lock the other 2 Blab spaces, and then at the end of all the questions they have like a Q&A, a questions and answers session, where people come in and ask the question directly from video to the person who's being in the conversation. And I think that works really well, especially when you get the video file at the end of that on the air recording, because you get a 16:9 video with each person side by side, which you can use then to upload to YouTube or any of your channels where you have evergreen, as they call it, content which carries on after the Blab. So really useful to have like a mini one-on-one webinar as well. Just 3 examples there of how I would use Wirecast and Blab in the field. Thanks for watching. See you next clip.